Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter at the whiteboard. So, when last we were together, we pretty much finished up wood, moisture, and movement. And I'm sure we could go on forever and ever and ever on that topic. But unless I get certain questions or suggestions in that regard, we'll consider that series complete. And I've been thinking about a lot of things we can talk about because we're still not at a point where I can start making shavings. I've got a bunch of notes here. Oh, let's do a couple of quick housekeeping items. Okay. Going back to safety. I don't know why it bothers me so, and it could be the reason why I don't own one. Marking gauges with the cutting disc. You know those marking gauges that have a very sharp cutting disc in here, and they're on some form of a rod with a handle and turn knobs to tighten them, etc., etc. This disc is shaped like that, and there's a countersunk hole. You put a screw through here into the metal shaft. In order for these to work properly, they have to be razor sharp. Okay? Now, if you're using it, let me see. The closest thing I have right here is my burnisher. And you can see it's getting dry in the shop. I lost my ferrule. Okay. So, you have this rod with a sharp disc on the front, and you're marking your panel. Okay? You're marking your panel. So it's got a stop that you push against the board and you pull it towards you. Well, I see so many people pulling it towards themselves where they could slip and gouge themselves. Now, granted, it's not a very deep cutter, but it's a cutter. The other thing I see is people holding their thumb on this side and pulling it towards themselves. I see a cut happening that way. Or they're holding a board this way and they're pushing it out this way. I can see a cut happening that way. That's one of the reasons I don't have one of those. So if you have a circular disc marking gauge, please be mindful, be thoughtful, plan out how you are using it. I like the concept, and you won't be able to see this, but I like the concept of being able to put this down against like a planing stop and working in this direction towards that stop, because there's no flesh on that end of the board. You pull towards you and there's flesh on this end of the board. Just a little pet peeve of mine. I see it all the time. I see people doing it all the time. So we got that one. Now, Another small pet peeve of mine. Why? And it's almost every woodworker. I would say, I probably would say, be safe to say every woodworker does this. I've done it. I don't like doing it. You want to trim an end off of a board. Okay? Use a bench hook or whatever to hold it, or you put it in your vise and you cut that piece. Where does the off fall go? On the floor. Unless you are mindful and you have a wood waste bucket below it, and then it goes in your wood waste bucket. I have a wood waste bucket. However, I still don't like having to bend over into my wood waste bucket if it's a piece I want. So, here's my thinking. And I don't care if you're using sawhorses, a saw bench, a workbench. You've got a piece of wood that you're cross cutting. Make sure you have support, some sort of support. Okay, I don't care if you're working on sawhorses, you have some sort of support. And you're on some sort of a raised support. You make that cut, and if you want, you can even have whatever the thickness is here and here, you could have a third one out here. Once you finish making this cut, this piece remains right here. You don't have to bend over and pick it up. You also reduce the chances of tear out or split out from a board falling. So that's just another pet peeve of mine. Give yourself proper support for your work. If you're ripping, the nicest saw bench I've ever seen is the one where you actually cut, your saw goes actually through the saw bench itself, so that you have basically a slot in your saw bench, and this is supported in some mechanism, and it's tied together somewhere at the bottom, but it's enough so your hand saw or your skill saw can run right through the middle and not engage in hardware or wood, and that leaves the two pieces that you're cutting fully supported, not falling on the floor. I just don't know why. I mean, even people who use table saws and miter saws, radial arm saws, they don't support their waste, and they cause pinching, they cause burning, they could cause a kickback. So safety. But also, when you get to be my age, you realize you bent over picking stuff up too many times. So there's that one. Now,